I'm here! Don't start without me!" Adam burst into the chief's office, more crawling than flying. He opened the door with his elbow, pushing it with his thigh, his hands occupied. Ron noticed his best friend and colleague had brought 2 cups of coffee and various snacks from the kitchen. Adam's mouth never stopped moving. It was a miracle he can still fit through doorways without them needing to be widened. "What can't we start without you?" Ron frowned. "Checking the October accounting report? I've never seen you so eager to work before." Adam whimpered, put his supplies on the desk, unabashed as baklava escaped its box and smeared the documents. "Never do today what you can put off until tomorrow," he said, smiling. "I'm here for the movie, Ron. Aren't you watching your Desperate Housewife for the first time tonight? That pretty maid you can watch for free. No registration? I want in. Please tell me you gave her that cute uniform with the short skirt and feather duster. I swear, it's my dream to have a lady like that around the house." Noticing his friend's confusion and utter incomprehension, Adam snorted. "Oh, come on, Ron. Wake up. You were supposed to install cameras at home this weekend to keep an eye on the new employee, your cleaning lady," Adam reminded him. "Still not with it? Perk up, please." Adam handed his friend a cup. Sniffing the contents, Ron took a sip and, smacking his lips in surprise, asked, "Is there alcohol in this?" "Oops," Adam tapped his forehead. "Sorry, boss, that's mine. You know a work morning's only good with a splash of whiskey in the coffee." Ron shook his head, then sipped from another cup. "Remind me why I haven't fired you yet," he muttered. The question was rhetorical, but Adam answered anyway. "Because then you'd lose your best friend. Your only best friend. And who else would honestly tell you that a weird tie doesn't suit you?" Adam grinned and raised his cup in a toast. Ron and Adam had been friends since high school. There were all sorts of things between them. They fought a couple of times but quickly made up, got into trouble, even spent a night side by side in the drunk tank. They were like brothers, practically living as 2 families. Their paths diverged slightly in college, but they stayed connected. Ron got into business, seeking opportunities to make money and start his own company, while Adam focused on programming. When Ron's fledgling company began seeing its first successes, his life took a dark turn, a very dark turn. The young man lost his parents in an accident. Though Ron was already an adult, the pain was immense. To parents, you're always a child, and losing them is like having part of your heart torn out, without anesthesia or warning. To Ron, it felt like a cold, gloomy void had replaced the wound, one nothing could fill. Adam, who had been close to Ron's parents, was there again, supporting his friend through this difficult time. He organized the funeral when Ron couldn't find the strength, then stayed by his side, gradually helping him recover. Adam's mum brought containers and thermoses of hot food for devastated Ron, making sure he didn't forget to eat. Even Adam's father, a military man not known for sentimentality, gave him fatherly hugs. In the end, the tragedy brought Ron and Adam closer. When Adam quit his job after a fight with his boss, Ron immediately invited him to join his company, putting him in charge of the IT department. It wasn't just friendship and gratitude, though the cheerful and seemingly carefree Adam turned out to be an excellent specialist. 10 years had passed. Ron's company had become recognizable in the market. Adam remained a bachelor, or, as he called himself, an eligible bachelor. Ron had married a beautiful woman with a bad temper. Adam was a witness at their wedding, though he disliked Nicole. The wedding was hasty because Nicole became pregnant 2 months after meeting Ron. She swore she had been taking birth control pills. Adam didn't believe her and called her a cunning fox who had decided to trap his friend. And Ron, who had lost his family, was even glad of the chance to build a new one. He hoped motherhood would change Nicole, awakening tenderness and affection, at least towards the child. However, as time passed, hope still flickered in his chest, but was on its last breath. Now their son Wayne was 4 years old, yet he spent more time with nannies than with his mother. What did Nicole do? She focused solely on herself, meeting friends, shopping and visiting beauty salons. She avoided household chores, unwilling to spoil her manicure or skin with cleaning products. She didn't cook, claiming ignorance and fear of poisoning the family with her cooking experiments. They hired staff for everything in their house. But there was an oddity. Cooks, nannies and cleaners fled this house like rats from a sinking ship. They worked for a month, 2 at best, before quitting without explanation. Ron seriously considered hiring an exorcist to search the house. Perhaps a poltergeist in the attic was driving everyone away. He could find no other explanation for the mass leaving. After all, he paid very well and even offered room and board. What more could people want? The answer, however, was obvious. Recently, they lost another nanny and cleaner. Mrs. Noble, Wayne's last nanny, said she was leaving because of the landlady's neglectful attitude and irresponsible behaviour. "I'm sorry, but no salary is worth the humiliation I'm experiencing." The elderly, slightly prim woman pressed her lips together. "I've been a nanny for decent families for years. I've raised children like a mother. I even moved to England with one family, but I've never seen such an attitude. Tell your wife that the nanny is not a servant to be treated like a dog." Ron tried to get additional information, but the woman only remarked, "Your child needs one permanent nanny. Wayne is a nice kid, but this merry-go-round of constantly changing nannies and household staff will drive him crazy and negatively affect his nervous system. He'll decide that there are no permanent people in his life who can care for him. He'll conclude he doesn't need anyone. He's already shutting himself off from people because he's realized they won't stay long. They'll soon run away. And I feel sorry for him. So, control your wife. As for me, I'll leave you now." Mrs. Noble nodded to Ron and left without looking back. The man went to his wife's room and demanded an explanation, but Nicole merely snorted. She sat before her dressing table on a sleek beige ottoman, scrutinizing her lips. They showed needle marks from her latest hyaluronic acid injection. She examined the beautician's work so meticulously that it was clear she was more interested in her own appearance than in the fate of a nanny or even her own son. "I didn't like that nanny anyway. She was haughty and arrogant," Nicole declared, pouting her already puffy lips. "Yeah, and her resentments are unfounded. You know, the cook and the cleaning lady quit, so I said she could clean up after Wayne and cook for me in the morning. What's wrong with that? She cooked for Wayne anyway, and besides, she's just a servant. Why so much arrogance?" Ron was shocked. He wanted to say, "You're just a beautiful blank who knows nothing. Why do you have so much arrogance?" But the man stayed silent. He still clung to this marriage, hoping he could keep the family together. After all, destroying everything is much easier than fixing it. Meanwhile, Nicole continued. "Maybe I overdid it a couple of times, but is she really so tender to be offended?" "How did you overdo?" clarified the man. "Well, I think I called her an old hag." "But isn't she old?" Ron clenched his fists and, after glaring at his wife, said in a categorical tone, "I'm no longer going to look for a nanny for Wayne. Now you will take care of him, completely. You will take him to the kindergarten, swimming and painting, to the doctor if necessary. You'll feed him in the morning. If you want, order food, take him to cafes. But the child must be fed and healthy." Nicole, stunned, met her husband's gaze in the mirror reflection. "What? No, I can't!"
And what are you, my dear, busy with? Ron grimaced. You're his mother, so be responsible.
And you're his father.
All right, the man agreed easily. Let me stop working and take care of my child. You know I'd love to do that. The man wasn't lying. He adored Wayne. Moreover, Ron spent every extra minute with his son. He devoted weekends and vacations to him too. But then you'll have to look for a job, Nicole, Ron said, crossing his arms over his broad chest. I think you should go to work in your speciality to support us. What kind of education did you say you have? Oh, yes. You didn't get it. You wanted to be an actress, that's right. So you came to the city, but it turned out that being beautiful wasn't enough. Then you were forced to get a job as an administrator and worked hard until I caught your eye in a restaurant. So, are you going back to being an administrator at the restaurant? I have to warn you that your salary won't be enough for all those bags, shoes, brand name clothes, which you bring home but never put them on. It won't be enough for beauticians, trips abroad, or even paying for this house. So, should I resign from my job, Nicole?
Why are you doing this to me?
Glistening tears appeared in Nicole's eyes. She usually used this weapon against her husband to knock the ground out from under his feet. Women's tears worked on Ron without fail. He would get lost and stifled, immediately recognize his defeat in the battle, and begin to comfort his wife. However, over the years of living together, Nicole had roared for nothing so often that Ron developed immunity. Therefore, this time, he didn't raise an eyebrow. I'll hire a cleaner, the first that asks for this place, and I'll also ask the cook to come back. Give him a paid vacation and time to think, said the man. But there will be no more nannies in our house any more. Wayne is your responsibility now. I've said it all. Noticing that the tears didn't work, Nicole blinked, and her eyes instantly became dry. Ron swallowed, involuntarily amazed by Nicole's talent. All the same, it was a waste that she wasn't taken as an actress. Such a drama queen is lost. You can't lock me in the house, she said, raising her sharp chin. I'm not trying to. I'm just hoping to make a normal mum out of you, since you didn't make a normal wife, Ron said, losing his temper for the first time. If you can't do it, Nicole, I'm afraid we'll have to split up. What? A hiss escaped from the throat of the woman, who had jumped to her feet. Are you threatening me with divorce? I'll take your property. That's unlikely. You can only take the car you were given as a gift and drive it wherever you please, the man said dryly. Then I'll take my son. Ron felt a serious pang, but he didn't let his wife see how much it affected him. Not likely either. You don't have a job or a place to live. In any case, Nicole, I warned you. Pull yourself together. He strode away, leaving his wife seething with anger. From that moment on, Nicole, offended by her husband, stopped speaking to him. Ron involuntarily thought that it was a wonderful time. Recently, he had hired a cleaner, a nice girl named Annie. Annie had graduated from a pedagogical college not long ago. It turned out that she was an orphan who had lived in an orphanage from the age of 13. Ron couldn't pinpoint the exact moment he agreed to give her a job. Perhaps he felt sorry for the girl, whose fate had been so harsh. Maybe he was moved by her open and naive look, with those sky-blue bottomless eyes. Or perhaps Ron liked how she carried herself during the interview. Back straight, hands in her lap, like a schoolgirl called to the principal's office. She answered clearly and matter-of-factly, holding nothing back. Without changing her expression, she explained why she wasn't working in her field. I haven't lost hope yet. However, at the moment, I'm seen not as a young teacher, but as a girl who lived in an orphanage for a long time. Sometimes it seems employers treat orphans like me as if we're criminals who've broken free. It's an unpleasant but real stereotype, Annie reasoned.
Did something happen to you? Ron guessed.
Annie hesitated, then nodded. After graduating, I went to work at a school. The students liked me, but their mothers didn't. Someone found out I was from an orphanage and thought it interfered with my teaching. The principal apologized and asked me to leave voluntarily. She sighed. Right now, I'm just looking for any job I can get. Maybe someday I can save up some money, start my own business, and not depend on anyone. I've already worked as a janitor while in college. I cleaned a hotel, so I think I can handle your house. Instead of saying the usual, "Thank you, I'll call you back," Ron asked, "Could you start on Monday?" Annie could. So she started work a week ago, and now the house indeed shone with cleanliness. However, Nicole was not pleased. She was against having a young, pretty girl with a dubious past in the house. Ron even worried that she might be rude to Annie. So this time he decided to be smarter. That Sunday, he installed cameras in the house, not only because he was concerned about his wife's behaviour, but also because Adam had advised him to keep an eye on the orphan. Adam, upon learning about the new employee, whistled and authoritatively said, "You're kind-hearted, of course, but I wouldn't trust her completely. After all, if you live with wolves, you'll howl like one. She may look like a nice sheep, but in reality, she might rob you easily. That's the law in an orphanage. If you want candy, you steal and hide it, or take it in a fair fight, biting fingers and pulling out hair." Where does such profound knowledge come from? Ron frowned, starting to worry about his choice of cleaning lady. "I saw it in a movie like that," Adam declared, munching on sugar and sesame-coated peanuts. "So set up a camera, for example. If anything happens, you'll have proof. Oh, and by the way, you'll understand why your staff doesn't last in the house. I'm sure it's Nicole's fault, but we'll have evidence, Sherlock, and you'll keep your son safe." The idea seemed worthwhile to Ron. It was the first Monday since the cameras had been installed. Adam literally danced in front of the boss's laptop screen, eager for the spectacle. The programmer had personally set up the system to monitor the house online. "Amazing what technology can do nowadays, eh?" He gloated over his handiwork. "Shame we didn't put cameras in the maid's bathroom and bedroom." Ron clucked his tongue and rolled his eyes. "You're 30, yet you're acting like a hormone-addled teenager," he chided. "You're 32, but you're behaving like an old man," Adam grumbled, pulling up an image on the screen. "Look, your house. Well, nothing interesting. Your Annie's cleaning, as expected, not even in a miniskirt. Boring." Ron peered at the screen. Annie was indeed cleaning windows. Adam fidgeted a bit more, finished everything he brought, and then left. Ron started working, periodically checking the house feed. He knew surveillance wasn't exactly ethical, but he couldn't quell his growing curiosity. Something about it made his blood simmer. He'd only installed cameras in common areas, the living room, kitchen and nursery. He hadn't invaded anyone's private spaces. Time ticked by. Adam kept popping into the study, sandwich or bun in hand, asking for updates. But there were none. Noticing his friend eating salad from a container, Ron suddenly frowned. A peculiar thought struck him. "Hey, Adam, show me the kitchen footage from this morning. Fast forward through it." "Sure thing," his friend mumbled through a mouthful. As Adam complied, Ron's suspicion was confirmed. "Listen, our cleaning lady hasn't eaten all day. She's been to the kitchen several times to feed Wayne. She even cooked for him since our chef's on vacation. I won't even mention that Nicole should be doing this, but Annie didn't even drink water." "Really? Maybe she's on a diet?" suggested the owner of the bottomless stomach, genuinely surprised. Ron eyed the screen doubtfully. Annie was as thin as a reed. A diet was the last thing she needed. That evening he decided to keep quiet, but the next day he found himself distracted from work, closely watching Annie. Once again she ignored the fridge's existence and tended to Wayne's meals. A week passed in this way. The man observed the house, growing increasingly shocked. Annie handled both cleaning and Wayne's care, while Nicole entertained friends at home, drinking with them or going out alone. On Friday, returning from work, the man approached his wife first. "How was your day?" he inquired. "Exhausting," the woman smiled. "Took your son shopping and to the pool." "Really? What did you feed Wayne today?" Nicole shrugged. "Porridge, soup, the usual." She averted her gaze. "Listen, Nicole, don't lie, okay? I know Annie cooked for Wayne. You realize you've burdened her with unnecessary duties." "Did she complain to you?" The woman bristled immediately. "Are you two so close that she now runs crying on your shoulder?" "No, she told me nothing," Ron waved off. "I found out another way. Tell me, what else have you foisted onto this girl?" "Nothing she can't handle. I need some me time too, Ron. Otherwise I'll lose my mind, okay?" The woman exploded. "And anyway, I'm going away for the weekend. Lisa's bachelorette party, so now it's your turn to be a parent." After her tirade, the woman began packing her things. Ron rubbed his face, feeling utterly drained. He recalled how elated he'd been when Nicole announced her pregnancy. He'd envisioned coming home after a long day to a house filled with love and warmth, embracing his wife, tickling the baby. They'd share dinner together, gathered around the same table. Reality was harsh. Nicole only made demands, offering nothing in return. Once she got her hands on the money, she couldn't get enough of it. The woman skipped dinner with her husband. She was watching her figure. Breakfasts were also separate, as Nicole woke up after noon. She only met Ron after work if she needed something. Pondering this, Ron went searching for Annie. He was surprised to find her in the nursery, playing with a child and teaching him some cards. "Daddy!" Wayne exclaimed, rushing to his father and hugging him. The man grabbed his son, tossed him up and pressed him close, making him laugh. Annie jumped up to her feet but winced, feeling pain in her leg. She staggered, and Ron barely managed to catch her. Now he had his son in one arm and Annie hanging onto the other. Wayne laughed while Annie hastily recoiled, apologizing. "Daddy, look what Annie taught me!" exclaimed the child, and said a few words. He struggled to pronounce some letters, but his mother did not care. Luckily, Annie managed to correct the sound in a short time. "Wow, you're so good!" his father marveled. "And look what else I can do! We did this too!" The boy began running around the room, showing off crafts, books, and scripts. Ron praised his boy with all his might, while Wayne beamed with joy. Ron then looked at Annie and asked directly, "I didn't ask you to work as a nanny. Why are you spending your time like this?" Annie shrugged. "It's not difficult for me, and I have nowhere else to go. Besides, I really like Wayne." She smiled sincerely. "You graduated from pedagogical school, right?" the man recalled. The girl nodded. "Remember when I said I was dreaming of opening my own business? I wished to rent a place and organize classes for preschoolers," Annie admitted, blushing for some reason. "A wonderful dream," the man responded sincerely. Ron involuntarily recalled the words of the previous nanny. She had said that Wayne had become withdrawn and harder to get along with. However, Annie seemed to like him. He was drawn to her like a magnet. The man also caught himself admiring Annie. Embarrassed by this thought, Ron turned away, returning his attention to Wayne. After discussing more of his achievements, the man sent the child to play and got to the point. "Annie, forgive me, but I found out that you don't eat in my house. Don't worry, I didn't measure the milk level or cheese size with a ruler. Just—" He sighed and confessed. "There are cameras in some places. They're for security, nothing more. However, I can't ignore your hunger strike." Annie, very embarrassed, lowered her head. "Well, Actually, I do eat. I buy cookies and I bring sandwiches and such, she mumbled. What's wrong with our food? If you don't like it or if you have a special diet, tell me what you want. The cook will be back soon and can prepare. Annie waved her hands. What? No diet. She nervously giggled, tucking a blonde strand behind her ear. Have you forgotten where I lived? I'm an omnivore. Believe me, it's just... I didn't think I could sit at your table or touch your food. Ron was genuinely shocked. He thought it'd been clear. If you live in his house, you can eat what you like. However, this pretty girl, perhaps due to people's past treatment of her, had decided otherwise. I see. Ron sighed and looked into Annie's eyes. So, here's the deal. I don't need hunger-induced fainting in the workplace. Please, feel at home and eat normally. You can take anything from the refrigerator. Until the cook returns, you can order food and leave the receipts. I'll pay for it. Okay? Annie timidly nodded. At that moment, her stomach emitted a sound like a dying wail. She blushed deeply, and Wayne burst into laughter. Annie, are you hungry? The child asked. Ron didn't need to ask. He picked up his son in his arms and announced they were all going to the kitchen. After an hour of cooking together, the trio sat at the table, eating pasta with meat sauce, generously sprinkled with cheese. Nicole had been invited to dinner too, but she reminded her husband that she didn't eat after 6. For the first time in recent years, Ron felt truly happy in his home. He was sharing dinner with wonderful people, just as he had dreamed. On Saturday, Nicole left, so Ron asked Annie to stay for a while to be with Wayne. I have to go to the office for 3 hours, he apologized. I'll pay for your time. It's all right. Annie waved her hand. We'll have a great time. Annie didn't lie. Wayne looked happy next to her. In the end, Annie stayed for the whole weekend, which they spent together. On Monday, Nicole didn't return. She only called and said she had gone for a walk. Ron was going to take care of the child himself, but Annie again helped him out. Work, I'll take Wayne to kindergarten and to his activities, she promised. Nicole returned only on Thursday. She still smelled of cocktails. The first thing she saw was the maid sitting at the table next to her son eating soup. What is this? The lady of the house was furious. Have you forgotten what I said? You're a servant that should know your place. Why are you eating at my table? My food. Ron didn't know, but it was his wife who said she was afraid to eat with the maid from the orphanage at the same table. She and her friends mocked Annie, claiming she might have lice and other diseases. She forbade Annie to use their bathroom, allowing her to go only to the guest room. She didn't give her bedding, and forbade her to bring a personal cup into their house. Yet Annie didn't pass the hostess's words to her husband, and for nothing. The thing is that Ron told me, began Annie, frightened by Nicole's fierce look. So you decided to listen to him and not me, right? You want to eat our soup? The anger-stricken woman grabbed the plate and poured the contents on the floor. Go on, eat it. Don't you want some? Then she threw the plate on the floor and it shattered. Wayne cried, frightened. Annie rushed to calm him down. All this made Nicole even angrier. She also rushed to Wayne and, breathing a breath of booze like dragon fire, grabbed the child's hands, hurting him. Wayne, come to Mummy, she demanded. He's hurt and scared. Stop it, pleaded Annie, worried about the boy. Shut your mouth, Nicole shouted and yanked her son. Annie let go of the child, afraid to cause him more pain. Wayne fell from the chair, hitting his knee on the plate shards. Annie cried out and rushed to the boy. This is all your fault. I'll terminate your employment, wailed Nicole, backing away. Annie didn't hear her. She fussed around the boy, giving him first aid and calling an ambulance. The child was brought to the hospital and given a few stitches for the wound. Annie was beside him. Soon Ron arrived, and after him, the police.
"We got a call saying you harmed the child," said the officers, addressing Annie. However, Ron stood up for her. He had seen everything that happened on the cameras and told the police about it. The man brought home Annie and tired Wayne. But Nicole, who had time to drink even more, was sent away. At first, Nicole was angry, stomping her feet and shouting that nothing was her fault. Then she whimpered and cried, begging her husband to give her another chance. "I gave you many years, but you didn't give me and my baby a single day, Nicole. Even when I tried to fix things, you weren't there for us," he said with a slight bitterness. "I didn't get divorced solely because of my son, but now it seems to me that Wayne is better without a mother at all than with such a mother." In the end, he filed for divorce. Nicole didn't claim the child. She didn't care about her son. The woman was sorry only for her luxurious life. Annie remained in Ron's house, but now as Wayne's nanny. The boy adored her. Soon Ron himself fell in love. They got married, Adam playing the role of the best man for the second time, authoritatively declared, "Now you've made the right choice, my friend." Family life turned out to be wonderful. Annie happily engaged in everyday life, comfort and care for her husband and son. Now Ron hurried home because he knew a loving family and dinner among his favourite people awaited him. 2 years after the wedding, Annie learned she was expecting a child. In due time, the couple had a daughter. Wayne became a wonderful and loving older brother for her. And when the children grew up a little, Annie was able to fulfill her dream. She gathered a team of teachers and opened a children's development studio. And there was no better teacher. After all, in addition to knowledge, Annie had something more: sincere love for children.